Hello and welcome to the Trust Factor Podcast, the only podcast that guarantees your success when you implement its divine age-old teachings. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Trust Factor Podcast. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. In what seems like a crazy world, it's every day, my friends. It's every day. You turn on the news. You don't even have to turn on the news. You can't avoid the craziness that's in the world. On the other hand, I'll tell you what, I was just in Israel for 3 weeks. And the average Israeli knows nothing about what's going on outside of Israel. It's actually shocking to see. I thought for sure they would have heard about all these crazy protests on the streets in all these major cities across the West, but they don't. They have no clue. The average Israeli, ask them about it. They have no clue, nor are they interested to hear about it. You know why? Because they've been bulletproofed. They've been bulletproofed by the craziness of the region. This is your safe place to come in and get a refresher, remind yourself of what's really important in this world and not the ridiculousness, not the joke and the lies and the corruption that are out there. And they are rampant, my friends. Switch them off. Do yourself a favor. If you can switch them off, do it. Do it right away because you will do for yourself the greatest good you could ever do. Just shut it off, tune it out and shut it down. And act like it doesn't exist. You will do yourself a tremendous favor. The only time you need to deal with it is when it is forced in your face. Then deal with it. Otherwise, you're just taking what people are making nothing into something about. These people are so insignificant, yet they're noisy. They're squeaky wheels, so everybody wants to give them attention. Don't do what they want. Don't give in to their stupidity. Shut it down and make it like they don't exist, and they will cease to exist. Let's move forward, my friends. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, they say in Hebrew, Amevin Yavin. Those who know, they know. Lack of communication. A person who ignores the Creator's hints and messages, both subtle and outright, we've discussed this. The nudges, the taps, the smacks, the punches, the stuff that gradually gets more and more difficult to bear, lives with a lack of communication with his Creator. By definition, that's why they get more difficult. Somebody who gets love taps and tries to understand what are the source of these love taps? Why am I getting them? Why is God doing this to me? By definition, he's reaching out to his Creator. He wants to understand why things are happening and how he can deal with them. If somebody is not dealing with them, then the love taps become nudges and punches and kicks, and they become very difficult to manage. And the reason is that you're not in tune. You're not reaching out to your Creator. He refuses to respond to the Creator's attempts to guide him. That's what God's trying to do. He's trying to point you in the right direction by giving you these little nudges. But if you keep insisting on doing things your way and not the way that He wants you to do them, then you're just not going to have a relationship with Him and you're going to end up upset and despair. He obstinately ignores pinches, kicks, and other attempts to wake him up. His life is one continued story of suffering, and he can't understand why things don't go his way. Like a child. It's like a child. As parents, it's amusing. We can sit and watch our child play one of these games. You buy them a game where they've got all these shapes, right? Stars and circles and squares and diamonds, and you give them that little round thing that they have to stick these shapes into, and they got to figure it out. And when they can't figure it out, we laugh. It's cute. But they get upset. It's not funny for them. They push and they throw things and they get upset and they get frustrated. For them, it's upsetting. For us, we laugh. It's cute. But I'll tell you something, my friends. That's us. That's us as we get older. We continue to try and push a round peg into a square hole, and it doesn't work. It's not working because He doesn't want us to do that. He's stopping you from trying. He sees you, but He ain't laughing. He's watching you, and He feels bad because He knows you could be doing the right thing instead of the wrong thing. So for Him, He comes over and tries to nudge you, tries to push you in the right direction. But what do? You grab that round peg and you run right back to that square hole and try and push it through. You're going to force it through no matter what happens because that's what you want. A person who clings to bodily lust and disdains good sense is certainly a candidate for suffering. He continues trying to satiate his bodily appetites and has no idea what the Creator is trying to convey to him. Since he's spiritually deaf, the Creator must stimulate him with painful tribulations, for otherwise he doesn't listen. It's very simple, my friends. We have a bodily appetite and we have a spiritual appetite. We are made up of two parts. One is the physical and the other is the spiritual, the metaphysical. There are two realms. There are the physical realms that you can weigh and touch and feel and sense with one of your senses and quantify. And then there's the emotional realm. You will never know what a person is really feeling inside. You could sit in a meeting with a dozen different people and each one of them has a story and is dealing with challenges and difficulties or just won the lottery. You have no idea what they're really feeling inside. They're putting on a face for the purpose of the meeting. You will never know what happens on their emotional plane. Why? Because it is metaphysical. It doesn't exist in a physical realm. You can't quantify how sad somebody is. You could say from 1 to 10, that's our limited way of trying to understand the extent of something that we can't measure. On a scale of 1 to 10, the individual himself doesn't know. And who's to say that they're telling you what's real and what's not? The point is, you don't know and there's no way to quantify because there is a realm that exists outside of the physical. And for many years, for generations, we didn't know about these things. We didn't know about rays, gamma rays, and ultraviolet rays. We had no idea that these things existed. We know them today. We can quantify them today. Does that mean that before we could quantify gamma rays or UV rays that they didn't exist? Of course not. They existed. We just couldn't see them. There is an entirely different realm, and we're made up 50% of physical and 50% of spiritual. The problem is, because we don't see the spiritual, because we don't see the metaphysical world, it's not in front of us, it's not demanding of our time and attention the way that the physical is. When you're hungry, those hunger pangs kick in. And a lot of guys get hangry. They want to eat, and when they don't eat, they get angry. Your body reminds you that you need to fuel it. You need to give it sustenance. You need to give it the ability to move forward. But your spiritual side, the soul that was blown into you, the metaphysical side, doesn't do that. Do you know how it manifests when it's hungry? First of all, it doesn't manifest when it's hungry. It manifests only when you've neglected it for long enough and you've done the damage. Then it starts to manifest as emotional difficulties, emotional illness, where you start to see people who come up with all kinds of difficulties, whether it's ADD, ADHD, whether it's anxiety, depression, OCD, schizophrenia, multiple personality disorders, all these different things. And it doesn't happen overnight. I'm not trying to minimize it. Clearly, some people demonstrate these types of illnesses from a very young age. But I have news for you. That individual is not here for the first time. They're coming from a different existence, and they don't leave their baggage behind and start fresh every time. On the contrary, they're brought here to be able to pick up where they've left off and have another crack, have another go at trying to improve. So if they've done damage in previous lives, that damage comes with them until they fix it. So yeah, it's a neglect of your spiritual self. It's a neglect of your soul. If you don't take care of your soul, it will manifest where the soul resides. And the soul resides, our sages tell us, in the head, in the brain. That's where your soul resides. So you think it's coincidence that once you've done damage to your soul by not satiating it, by starving it, that it acts out and you start to have emotional problems? Of course not. Everything is connected, my friends. There is no such thing as coincidence. A person on the path of truth insists on performing the Creator's will. He taxes the limit of his understanding to try his best to do what the Creator wants him to do. He goes to extremes to understand what's going on. There's a message here. Nothing is coincidence. He doesn't go through life explaining things away. He stops to understand. If I don't understand it, why don't I understand it? What am I missing? What's the message here? That's somebody who really wants to cling to their Creator. So with the Creator's help, we'll learn in this book how to understand what the Creator wants from us in every aspect of life so that we'll accomplish our ultimate purpose. Instead of suffering, we'll taste the taste of paradise in this life and will merit a place in the world to come as well. You double dip, my friends. When you're doing the right thing in this world, you earn a good life in this world by understanding that everything is driven by a purpose, and that purpose is your ultimate good. So you benefit in this world. You don't get frustrated. You don't get upset. You don't dig your heels in. You resign to the things that the Creator wants from you, and you accept them with love. And once you do that, the road opens up ahead of you. Instead of forcing a round peg in a square hole, instead of insisting that it's going to be your way or the highway, You resign to the Creator's will. I'm not saying you got to be a lay down to every individual. That's not what I'm talking about here. But there are messages in everything that happens because there is no such thing as coincidence. The smart money analyzes the messages, starts to, first of all, acknowledge them, and then try to understand them, and then respond in kind. So if, like it says here, if you make a left and it's blocked, and you make a right and it's blocked, you don't get upset and go back to the left and then get upset again and go back to the right and keep pushing it because one way or another, you're going to go left or right. You stop and you figure out, is there another way? Maybe I should go straight. Maybe I should go back. Maybe I should go up or down. There are other ways. There are alternatives. The two that you've chosen, there have been roadblocks put in front of you. Are you going to get upset about those roadblocks, or are you going to find another path because you recognize that those roadblocks were put there by a loving Creator and no one else? It's like the examples I've given you in the past. Now, the obvious question arises over here, and I've addressed this in the past. It's always important to review it. When is enough? When is it enough? When have you made enough efforts, and when is it not enough? And the answer is, it's up to you. It's your relationship with your Creator. And the longer you work and the harder you work on your relationship with Him to acknowledge that He's running the show and that everything comes from Him, the less and less you have to try. The fewer times you have to make an effort. You will naturally start to understand that in the past you've made bad decisions because you haven't seen His hand. Once you start to see His hand, you start to make good decisions. Like I've said in the past, I try and solve problems all day. When I try and solve a problem with X, but X is not working, even though I thought X would work for sure, instead of digging my heels in and continuing to try X because that's what I think is the right solution, stop and recognize, yeah, X in any other situation, under any other circumstance, X would have worked and should have worked. But the fact that it's not working now is a message from your Creator who runs the world. He's put a roadblock there. So stop and look somewhere else because there is a reason, and there's a good reason. I've given you plenty of examples in my life where I've looked for a part and I can't find the part, and I go online and start looking for it because now I have to buy it and it's nowhere to be found. I look everywhere, high and low, all the places that are supposed to have this part in ample supply. They don't have it. It doesn't exist. Why? What am I, in the Twilight Zone over here? Before I could find it so easily. Now it's nowhere. Everything I look for is difficult. And the answer is, either it's not what you need or you've already got it. Why are you wasting your time and money trying to get more of it? Go check in your part supply. It'll be right there. And I can't tell you how many times, my friends, that's happened to me. That I think I need something, I go online looking for it, and I hit roadblock after roadblock. I get stonewalled everywhere I go. I get frustrated. I stop. I look back in my supply, and it's there. As much of it as I need. I should have never gone to buy it. How did that happen? It happened because the Creator knows what I need and what I don't need, and He loves me, and He doesn't want me wasting my time, spinning my wheels, doing things I shouldn't be doing. Can you imagine? Once you tune into that, my friends, as soon as you start looking the next time and you start hitting a roadblock, it only takes one roadblock. That's it. Then you know you've made it. You got to one roadblock and you stopped and you said, wait, it should have been there. It's not there. There's a message here. What's the message? My Creator loves me. That means I don't need it, or I've already got one. Live like that, my friends, and life becomes paradise. Have an amazing day. Thank you for spending time with us on the Trust Factor podcast. If you've heard something today that moved you, save this episode and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming conversations that challenge, empower, and uplift. And if you're on social media, connect with us. Leave your thoughts. Drop a quote that resonated with you. Hashtag the Trust Factor podcast. Until next time, keep growing in your trust and keep living with purpose. I'm Jessy Revivo, and this has been the Trust Factor podcast. Thanks for listening.